Welcome back, and today we are playing out the Swedish Buffalo B-239, and it's essentially just a better American Buffalo. Now the matchmaker is gonna be worse. You are at a higher PR, you are gonna be facing, well, B-239s, F4U-1As and all the American planes that can really make your life a living hell. But overall, it flies the same way, it feels the same way. The flight performance is better, but it kind of just feels like the same plane. And you won't really notice a difference in flight performance until you are fighting another Buffalo, where you can really see the differences. Overall, they just feel the exact same way. The main issue is going to be fast planes. The F4U-1A, for example, will absolutely rinse you if he doesn't decide to actually dogfight you. And even if he does decide to dogfight you, and I'll give you an example actually pretty soon here, I think it's after this clip right here, you'll see that the retention, the top speed and the climb rate at higher speeds, the linear retention, and basically everything that has to do with staying above 300 kilometers an hour is kind of sucky. Now this doesn't mean that this plane is cheeks, it's actually pretty damn good. You can dogfight about everything. Now Mark 1A Spitfires, Zeros and stuff, they are a bit sus. You can get around it if you have like an energy advantage. Overall you can kill them relatively easily because you actually have good maneuverability, you have a decent climb rate, decent energy, and of course a pretty good set of guns. Now these are the rechambered Swedish 12.7mm and they hit pretty hard. Now sometimes you get the P40 treatment that you just saw on the screen, and you'll see another example of that actually pretty soon here. Overall, if you are shooting at planes that aren't super sturdy, so essentially every non-American plane, they're just gonna fall apart. American vehicles like the P40, like the F4U-1A, they just tend to soak up quite a bit of rounds, and because they are also a lot quicker than you, overall this makes for some pretty frustrating engagements, and you are going to be facing the Americans not every game, but very often. And most of my games in today's video are going to be the exact same thing. I actually have quite a few decent fights for you, despite it being at low tier. I mean, it mostly came down to the players, the numbers of players, as well as simply the planes they were flying. But we actually have a few lessons today, especially when it comes to target prioritization and just positioning overall. And these planes are great for low tier, especially if you are trying to learn, because here you don't get punished instantly for not playing it perfectly. If you are struggling with your planes, I advise you to maybe drop a BR or two. If you cannot go one-to-one at your own BR, you're probably at too high of a BR, and I advise you to simply take a step back, fly something slightly easier and work your way up from there. It's much easier to learn the planes around you if you are flying something that you are familiar with, and you can build your Wikipedia knowledge from that point out. And there's another P40 that simply won't die, and trust me, it's not gonna be the last one today. Now with the Buffalo here, we dive in, we dive on the furball, we take some guys out, and we basically lose all our speed instantly. Luckily we have our team around, so we don't have to be as passive, and we can actually be relatively aggressive here and just take these fights to them. But the first two games that I had here were mostly background footage, so I can just kind of yap around, because today has been the 700th video on my channel, at least the one that is public. And I mean, it's a long one, so I have to yap a little bit at the start and not waste the footage that I think is actually worth talking about. And we are gonna get into that right after we Epstein this Yak 1. Except we end up not really doing too much damage. We hit him a lot, we do severe damage, we take his wing off, he's gonna spin into the ground, and he definitely didn't kill himself. Let's start at the first actual fight of today. Now we have some F4Us around, we have two in front of us, we have a Junker 88 on our left, IL-2 in the back, and another F4U directly behind us. Now how do we want to approach this? Well, at this point I thought that they were engaging the PE2. So I thought, well, maybe I can catch them off guard and just kind of kill them while they are busy. Wasn't really gonna work out. I noticed the F4U on my 6, so instead of just, well, diving away and baiting the F4U, I'm gonna pretend that I don't see him by going for the bomber to kind of reel him in. We dodge over his guns, we turn to where he is going to be in a second here, but he simply dives away. He even has the disrespect and the gall to shoot the IL-2 on the way out. We hit him a lot, but it does nothing because he is an F4U. Kind of unlucky, because that's going to end up biting us in the ass. I'm not going to show you the end of this game because it ended up in like a 1v12, but that's not the point here. We are about to take a bit of a 1v2 against two faster F4Us, and I have the maneuverability advantage. However, without speed, you have no maneuverability. None of them are really engaged on me. They don't really care about me. They are engaging the Spitfire instead. I'm keeping tabs on the FU on our 6 because yes, he dove all the way to the deck and wasted a lot of energy, but he also kind of climbed back up. So he's either going to be decent, he's going to come back later, or we are going to be completely fine because he's engaging someone else. Now we go head on with the first one. We shoot some rounds, we don't end up hitting anything. We make sure to dodge his rounds. It's an FU 1D, it's essentially the same thing as the 1A. And we notice a second one coming in. So I'm looking at him, I'm preemptively turning into him. It's two 1Ds, and I'm gonna turn into this guy. However, he's already completed the turn because I had to turn towards the other FU. Now he's gonna take some shots at us because he is able to spray. And instead of going for the one in front of us, I'm actually gonna focus on the guy that's directly on my 6. So I get a bit of a keyboard shot, it doesn't do real damage, and he is breaking off away from me, turning onto my 6 here, which is a problem. I now need to make a decision. Do I stick on the FU that I'm on, or am I gonna take it a little bit safer, not go for the shot, and see if we can live another turn or two to fight another turn or 5. So we take our speed, we dive to the deck, we are gonna kind of deny them the angle, and now we pitch up over their noses. Now the first one is about to kiss a tree, which is fantastic, and now this guy is locked in with a low speed Buffalo, and he is not gonna do very well in that regard. He's gonna start pitching up. I'm not pitching up into him just yet. I'm going a little bit horizontal to get out of his stall. Then we drop the flaps and we are simply gonna pitch directly into him. Now I'm not gonna stall myself out. Well, I'm kind of stalling, but I'm not gonna hammerhead myself. I'm gonna turn under him, pick up some speed to turn around quicker to get on his 6, because right now I need to kill him because he is about to get away from us. Pull the flaps in, because otherwise he is going to outrun us 100%. Well, he is going to anyway. But now I have a little bit more of a window to actually shoot at him as he's trying to exit. Now, if this guy dodged properly and took a little bit slower turns instead of such massive banking turns, he would have outrun me no issue. And he can really just kind of climb away with the speed advantage that he has. And there is really no way I will ever touch him. Junker 88, I mean, pitches up into us, not really a threat, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway, because we are on our way to a bit of another fight. And the guns are again actually going to grief us. Now this P-40 has been sitting on the runway for about 2 minutes now. He finally comes in. You can see the FU in the background actually flying in at us. He has landed and repaired. And this P-40 is reroll account that is stat padding at low tier. So I wanted to kill him. I'm being a little bit risky. I'm letting this guy on my ass, and I'm simply going to just stick the scissor. Now I'm gonna pitch up after him here because I need to kill him right now, because otherwise that FU is going to absolutely rinse me. We pitch up into him, we get some hits, but again it is a P-40. What does he do? Well, he's a low tier stat padder, so he's of course going to run directly to his base. Now we managed to get some hits in, but again it just does absolutely nothing. In the end we do get a severe damage, we crit his engine, but the airfield is right there, so he just kind of goes and lands. Now you see this FOU, you see two FOUs, they are much faster than us and they are just gonna run away. They're gonna trade in head-ons until I get set on fire. I end up trading with the guy that I basically laid into at the start, and that's what ended up costing me the game. I'm not gonna bore you with that fight, it was super boring just trading head-on, so I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short, and I'm trying to keep your engagement somewhat as well. Heinkel 100 comes in. I mean, I have the energy advantage, I'm more maneuverable. This guy has absolutely zero chance if he pitches up after us, and he does exactly that, so we dome him in his head. We don't hit his head, however, but we just set him on fire, and a Heinkel 100 really dislikes any kind of damage, especially when it's burning damage. That thing is going to cook itself, and down he goes. So we disengage, we see this Yak 1 going super slow. We go for the slow Yak 1. We set him on fire, we get some severe damage on the engine on the bottom right, but this guy is 100% dead as well. He's way too low and not close enough to the runway, so we disengage from him and we go for the lag 3. And that is essentially going to be kill number 3, and we are going to be looking to someone else to bully. Heinkel 112 crashes in front of us, two guys behind us and an I-16. And I-16 really isn't that much of an issue. You can dogfight these things with a little bit of energy as well, because they just stall themselves out instantly. If they have some energy on you, however, they are kind of scary if they have the position, because they can just kind of pull directly in your shots. However, if they are already slow, I mean, they won't get fast at all, and they are essentially an XP pinata, just like that guy is right there. And then we notice 2 planes over there. Now we have very little amount of tickets left. They are ground pounding as well. And I had the energy advantage, but that is boring. I'd rather just bait them out. They are in a 2-man squad, and I know that if I'm gonna sit below them, they are actually going to take the fight. Now, is this ideal? Is this the smart way? Is this energy conservative? Definitely not. But it's definitely the more fun way of flying at low tier, because this is the way you can fly at low tier when the planes allow you to. The Heinkel 112 is an absolute joke of a plane against the Buffalo, and the MiG-3 is as well. The only thing I have to worry about is his guns right here. It's the Burger King variant, so we just kind of dodge him. We go straight up, we pull up into the Heinkel 112, and we start turning with them at the same time. Now the Burger King right here is basically going to turn directly in front of us, so we are just going to shoot at him and get some damage in. If we didn't hit that, I would have kept pulling into the same direction as well. Now we can go for the head-on here and trade. I have the advantage because I'm diving on him, but I don't like dying, so I simply dodge his guns. We go straight up, and then we can very easily stall him out and kill him. However, the Key 27 and the P-36 make sure to stop ground pounding so they can interrupt my fight and basically kill the 2 guys that I have marinated for them. Thank you very much for the help. I definitely needed it after I've already cooked both of them. Now let's take a look at a bit of positioning and target management. It's not really prioritization, it's more about managing multiple opponents and trying to make sure that you don't get clapped by being converged on by 12 people at the same time. If you're unlucky, sometimes it's 16 people at the same time, but luckily at this point it is not top tier, they're not going Mach 2, so actually if you have a little bit of distance between each other, it's gonna take them a little bit to get to you. Now we have this F1 in front of us. I miss all my shots, pretty easy, and the C202 was a bit of a misplay. I didn't bait him, I didn't try to make him dive on me so I could dodge his guns because his performance isn't that great. I didn't think he would dive on me because he has been sitting there for the last 3 minutes already and he didn't engage anyone. All he was doing was simply sitting there. So I thought, well, I can take the fight with this 109 and then have a bit of fun with him before the Spitfire comes in. However, they all decide to dive on me at the same time. The Spitfire is much quicker than us. I know that he doesn't have a very good roll rate at high speed, and he does lock up quite a bit as well at high speed, so I just want to make sure that I keep him fast so I can maybe cut behind him and then dodge the 109 in the meantime. Now the issue is that the Spitfire is now actually going pretty slow and I'm not going to cut into him, so I'm simply going to dive away. Is this going to solve the issue in the long run? No. If this 109 goes for me together with the Spitfire, I am still completely dead, but I can hope that I'm much quicker than the Spitfire, get a bit of separation, and with a little bit of ball juggling, maybe we can actually drain their balls and then dogfight the 109 and then go head on with the Spitfire, for example. Now the Spitfire gets engaged by my friendly, which is absolutely perfect because now I'm able to pitch up after the 109 as he stalled out. Now I'm having trouble aiming at this point because I have very little speed on my plane. We get some hits in. That's probably a steal, I'm not entirely sure. We hit him once and he bailed out. That is absolutely perfect. And now we need to make a decision. Do I dive on that pack, go head on with them, have basically equal energy and potentially not even save the F4U? Or do I get a little bit of altitude and basically have all these guys by the balls at the same time? Now the Spitfire is going to be a bit of an issue. But with a kilometer of altitude on these guys at this BR, I feel pretty safe. Now I'm gonna go for the Spitfire first because he is a plane that can actually maneuver with us. But he's diving away, he's going a little bit too fast, but the way we set up means that the 202 is still within arm's reach. So we missed the Spitfire, sure, but our pass is still not wasted because we ended up killing the second highest energy state plane in the enemy team. We stay directly above them. If they want to shoot at us, they have to pitch straight up for us, and they essentially are forced to, because if they dive away, I get their ass. And if they pitch up for us, they stall themselves out and I still get the ass. And that's why it's so important to solidify your position. In this case, I have a very helpful teammate around in the I-153, as well as a slightly less helpful teammate. Well, he does end up helping himself out of his misery in a second here. But in general, that's how I would always play it, because you cannot always rely on your teammates. If you are on communications and you need to save someone, it's a different story. You can communicate, you can say, well, I'm actually about to be dead, sacrifice me to the greater good. Or you can say, well, I'm actually might be able to stay alive for like a minute longer. And then yes, I would dive in, see if I can turn the 2v4 into a 3v2 or maybe a 2v2. and then we can actually maybe win the game that way. So it depends a little bit on the circumstances, but there's a reason I basically make all my videos solo nowadays, because squadding with like a top 50 player is really not gonna give you an accurate representation of how these games are going to be going. Now, for the last kill of this game right here, we are going to be fighting the Bowfighter at 99% power. Now, we need to make sure that we don't misplace our energy and that we actually go vertical properly. Now, we end up actually looping this guy out. He has a very tight turning radius, as you can see right here. Luckily, we managed to have the aim of a god and only hit his engine. We set him on fire and then we fly away. Now, he is doing donuts on the ground, so he manages to get a shot on us. Very nice shot from the guy. He almost did a 180 quickscope on me there. Luckily, it's only a 7mm and it didn't really do much damage. And that's how you properly use energy. Especially the last fight there gave you a pretty good indication of what you can expect from a plane like this, as well as the plane like the Bowfighter. The Bowfighter played that absolutely flawlessly, and if he played it any other way, the only end result would have been that he would have died a little bit quicker. Here comes Richard Hammond in his 109 F2, and I know it's an F2 because I spotted him a little bit earlier, but that lasted like a minute of him flying away, so I want to go back to him diving on us. I do outmaneuver him, but I do want to be careful that I don't fly in his gun, because he does have 200 rounds of an absolute Nerf pistol. If he hits me anywhere near my engine, however, it's probably a fire or a dead engine, so I just don't want to get hit by it anyway, because it feels a little bit like gambling, and gambling is of course good. You can only lose 100% of your earnings, but you can make at least 2000% of it. So you do the math, which one is better. In the meantime, Richard Hammond is just very busy understeering in my face. We load him up with 50 cals until he becomes too heavy to fly. He falls out of the air, and then we make a bit of a decision. Do we go for the P-47? That's going to kill a lot of tickets ground pounding and might be very annoying late game because he has so many guns. Or do we stay at altitude and accomplish literally air? I'm gonna go for the P-47 here to save our Mosquito. Now the Mosquito is not gonna be super useful, not at all. However, keeping him alive is of course good bait for later on. And in the meantime, I couldn't really do anything anyway, so keeping my energy wouldn't have done much for the sake of my team. 202 comes in. 109 is directly above us, but he is being engaged by someone else, so we are actually gonna turn into the 202. I was kind of setting up for a sideways pass, so he went for us and then I could like turn into him, but the Mosquito that I saved ends up being bait almost instantly, and this guy goes into a shallow or relatively steep climb, probably because he didn't see us, and he wasted a lot of energy doing that, and then he kind of dives in. We are able to cut him off, and because of that he stays within my firing window for quite a long time. Now he does make some very jerky motions with his stick, some here and there. He's pulling on that thing with his right hand quite frequently, and every time he does so he's getting closer to that goon state, and if he gets into the goon state, I just noticed his fucking name, Penis Fungus is gonna get closer to busting, and if he busts, well, his plane is of course going to explode. Yeah, I have nothing to talk about. This guy is just flying straight, and this is my main issue with, well, low tier kind of. People just don't try to fight you. They just try to run away. He's not accomplishing anything. Like, if you aren't outrunning someone, flying straight away from them at like 300 kilometers an hour, it's not gonna make you win. You're better off just trying to fight it. Try to edge that fight. Maybe you'll actually win. Maybe you don't bust. I guess if he had lived a little bit longer, because my guns did absolute piss this time around, the P-51 would have actually been able to save his ass. Now we are not going that fast, and it's a P-51C. I go up over his nose. We pitch very tightly here. We're gonna try to keep this fight a little slow. Make sure that he overshoots or stall him out. Either way, it's gonna work out perfectly fine. Now we can notice that he's already stalling. He has a much higher stall speed than us, and in this case higher is worse, so we are just able to kind of float up and over, and just like that we essentially get on his 6 instantly, and this time around we basically one-shot him. Kind of funny considering we did absolutely nothing to the C-202, and then we just one-shot the P-51 out of the air, and that's going to be kill number 4. And that's really all I have for you today. I sound a little bit dead today, and that's because it is 3:50 in the morning. And I'm trying to be somewhat silent for the people in my house that are trying to sleep. We dive on the 109 F1, kind of catch him off guard. We're going pretty quickly. I'm just trying to stay on his 6. I'm trying to keep him slow. I only have my wing mounted 50 cals here, and luckily he does the absolute dumbest thing he could have done. And let's fly away from us and then pitch straight up. He's getting real nice and slow. I'm trying to Epstein him with one of my guns. I have like 500 meters convergence, I think I had. I'm trying to tap fire him. It's just, he doesn't want to die. I'm only hitting him with like 150 cal. But at this point he is severely crippled. He is doing his absolute best to stay in the air, but it's over. Now we hit him center mass, we set him on fire, we get severe damage. And is he actually going to die? The answer is yes. And then we try to kill the B-239 with 90 rounds. And of course, well, we hit him and then he runs back to the base. That's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to bed and you'll see me in the next one.